Welcome back to the Quiet Mind Astrology Podcast. I'm Jeremy Devins, and today I'll be talking about the Venus retrograde horoscope for every sign. So you want to know your rising and moon sign and listen to both sections for your rising and moon sign to know how this Venus retrograde is affecting you personally. And if there's people close to you in your life who you know and you have their chart and their info, you can also look at their rising and moon sign to better understand what's happening with them and maybe talk to them about it, share some notes and feedback and experience with that person to better understand what's happening. Because I know talking to a lot of people recently going through major life changes. Some people call Venus retrograde the breakup season. That is an oversimplification, but as I've talked about in recent episodes, think of it as slowing down. It appears that Venus is slowing down from our perspective here on Earth, but it is always going forward. There's always movement and growth happening, but it appears that things need to slow down a little bit right now, which is a wonderful time for going back over things, reviewing things, revisiting things. And if this is a time where you're trying to start a new relationship or something completely new that you really, really want to do, there could be some slowdowns and setbacks related to that thing. Now, if you don't know your rising and moon sign, go to quietmindastrology.com, get your free birth chart. You can enter your own info. You can look up charts of people close to you. Share it with a friend. They can look up their chart as well. It's super empowering and helpful just to understand and make sense of what's happening. Because these energies are here, whether we are working with it or against it or totally not paying attention to it at all. The energy is there in the same way that the weather systems are always there. There's times where it rains, times where it snows, times where it's sunny, times where it's cold. And we get to choose how to work with that. And sometimes if we don't plan for it, it can get in the way of our plans and our day. And if we plan for it, it's really simple. It's not a big deal. We can work with it. We can find ways to make the most of it. And then we can kind of work with these energies rather than have them kind of work against us. So I'll be looking at each rising and moon sign. So just looking at that ascendant, and it will apply to the rising and moon sign. And it'll tell us what areas of life are being affected, what houses are being affected. So if you're familiar with the houses, each area of the sky represents an area of your life. And when Venus retrogrades through one of these areas, it's a time to slow down, get connected to what you really desire in that area, and kind of fresh perspective. And it's the time to slow down in that area, not to start new things, not to chase new desires, but to look at what you have had and experienced. It's a great time to do journaling, gratitude reflections, and kind of set the stage for when we get fully out of this cycle, which will be November 29th, is when we're really into this next phase of Venus in Libra and really into Venus being at its best. Is going to be a wonderful shift of energy November 29th. We're out of the node transit as well. That will be a very transformative turning point in the year, the last really big one of the year. And coming up before then, I know it's a long ways away from July 22nd when Venus first goes retrograde, but on October 7th, that is the date that Venus is now moving forward. So from July 22nd to October 7th, we are retracing old territory. We're going back over things that we've already experienced and had some perspective of, and now we are getting a new perspective of that experience. And this is a time until October 7th, particularly, where it's ideal to really be extra intentional around this Venus energy of not starting new relationships, not committing to new marriages, new partners, old partners coming back into your life, trying to rekindle things. These can all lead to major life lessons and growth, but ultimately, I've seen so many times over so many years and so many case studies, thousands of case studies to find patterns and things like this, that people who do start relationships or new things during these Venus times related to relationships, they often don't work well, but they may be karmically necessary. It may be important for you to go through that lesson, and if you didn't, you may be missing out on an important lesson in your life that you will need to learn eventually in some way. And lessons are repeated until they're learned from. And then when we stop repeating those patterns, we know we've learned the lesson and we can move on to the next thing. So hopefully this horoscope today gives you some perspective of what some of those lessons might be, what areas to focus on, what areas to not focus on, what are some of the possible positive, negative outcomes of these transits for you in particular, starting with Aries ascendant or moon sign. So Aries ascendant or moon, this transit is happening over your 5th and 4th houses. You see Venus here in Leo, and it will move to Cancer in the 4th house. So Venus in the 5th house, retrograde, is a time to look back at where you have been most creative in your life, where you have felt you've pursued your passions and desires, and you've had good success there that you may want to revisit. Maybe there's something you've created in the world that needs a little more attention and some time to slow down with it and care for it and go back to your home. Some more turning inward kind of energy from your creative pursuits and what you're putting out into the world, which may include creative projects. It may include children that you have created. It's the most significant creative project you could ever have. But now with going into the 4th house in your sign of Cancer, and where ignore the other transits, they're not as important, the other planets aren't as important right now here, but to go within, to go home and return back to what really matters to you, where you feel nourished and nurtured, the food that you really love and enjoy, the activities at home that you really love that nourish you and help you feel recharged. Wonderful time for doing self-care. If there's anything in the home that needs attention, like a garden to tend to, or a home project, or in some sort of hobby or activity that you like to do at home, wonderful time to come back to that and get in touch with what you desire in your home, where you want to be living, what would make your home feel beautiful, peaceful, spacious, harmonious, and tend to that. If you got some old junk lying around, things that you haven't tended to in a while, unfinished projects, that weight of that could be heavier now, and if you don't address it now, it could really slow you down when Venus goes forward in a couple months here. And then you'll come back to this time in the 5th house, back to your creative projects with more renewed excitement and vigor and interest and passion again. But you might be missing that passion and creativity a little bit during this time between July 22nd and October 7th. And then by the time you get moving forward in November 29th, it's very favorable for romantic relationships, business partnerships, to improve those relationships. And maybe this deepens a relationship you already have or brings a new relationship into your life. Until then, you may have a hard time finding what is really compatible in relationship, what you really want in relationship, until November 29th. So for now, go more inward, reconnect to what lights you up, and bring that forward in your creative work in the world. For Taurus ascendant and moon sign, this transit of Venus retrograde is over your 4th and 3rd houses. So Venus is currently in the 4th house as I'm recording this, around July 22nd. And your home life, what you really love to do at home, what nourishes you, what lights you up, may not be as clear right now. It may need some deeper reevaluation. And when Venus goes into Cancer, into the 3rd house, it's a time to come back to things you love to do, hobbies that light you up. Connecting with friends, socializing, like talking on the phone, bringing more communication into your life, more conversations, can really help you clarify what you love, what you want to be doing, how you want to be spending your time. And you may find yourself needing to do more trips around town, handling errands, sort of keeping busy, and have a little more activity in your life during this time. And it's good to come back to the things that you love to do for fun, hobbies, just for your own interest and entertainment and growth. You may have some things that you learn or things that you do, like just like fun kind of educational activities that you want to return to and come back to. And doing that, you will be renewed and revitalized and reconnected to your desire again of what you really want. And this starts to move forward again on October 7th, where now you come back to having the sense of home and where your home is, what you love to do at a stronger sense. And you feel more at home in yourself, more at home in your physical property home, and ready to move forward to this next phase that begins November 29th, where now there's a sense of like joy and love in everything you do. It's like you come back to yourself in a new level through this process of the retrograde, where you feel like yourself on a really deeper level day to day, like everything you do with Venus in the 6th house, it brings this love and vitality and passion back into your daily life at a deeper level. And you may find yourself in a more beautiful home environment, a more beautiful state internally, and more connected to what you want to be creating, who you want to be, what kind of activities you want to be doing in your daily life. Bringing those hobbies, those things you love to do, those passion projects, into more regular activities in your life. So now it becomes more a part of your routine. And if it's something you've wanted to make a living doing something that you love, this is a favorable time to build that up, to have that as more of a possibility. So you can be doing more of what you love every day from November 29th, 2023. For Gemini ascendants and moons, this Venus retrograde is over your 3rd and 2nd house. So first in the 3rd house, it's time to slow down on hobbies and new skills and things that you've been learning and go back to the ones that have been important to you. Maybe there's some thing that you started learning a while ago that you want to revisit, and a hobby that you picked up a while ago that you want to come back to just for fun, for your own pure joy and love of it. And then as it goes back to the 2nd house, it's time to slow down and reevaluate, reassess your finances. Maybe put a little more attention on how you manage your money and things like running a budget or tracking your finances and spending and income. Putting more attention on that, slowing down with it, and reconnecting with, are you really spending money on things that you love and want to have in your life? And how could you reorient your finances so that you are prioritizing those things that you really love to do? And those can contribute to your growth, your transformation in your life, your education going forward. And the kind of arc here to October 7th is now you're fully moving forward in this 3rd house, reconnected to your desires and your passions around how you want to be spending your money and your time and in your hobbies and your creative pursuits. And you may find that you're doing more things that you love to do. Your day is not just full of work and mental processing, but now you're actually more connected to your heart and what things light you up that you get to do for fun, not just for work and not just for mental stimulation, but maybe there's more social connection as well with the 2nd house element of family, whether this be your family of origin or chosen family, that you kind of return to things that give you that sense of connection. And this comes forward into your other areas of life and into your creative pursuits on November 29th, when Venus reaches Libra, its own sign, and you're in this new phase of life where you have a stronger sense of creative output and creative pursuits, and you can be really prolific from that point, where all of your ideas and inspiration and passion now starts to come through in physical manifestation of publishing work, creating work. This could include content creation like videos, podcasts, books, running a website, social media. There's this element that you're going to be more creative and more expressive and more connected to a solid foundation of doing that from a place of what you love to do, how you love to spend your time and money with people that you love to be around. For Cancer ascendant and moon, this Venus retrograde is transiting over your 2nd house and your 1st house. So it's a time to slow down with your spending and slow down to assess how you're spending your time with family or not, and your relationship with family, and what really brings you in connection with your heart, with your family of origin or family of choice. And this reevaluation, reconnection to that sense of family that you have or may want to have in your life. And this could also include family of creating, that you want to have kids or you do have kids. But a time to slow down with family matters and put more attention on it, including financial matters and how you're managing assets of the family, to put more attention on them and be more intentional about them. And coming back to your sense of self. Cancers tend to have this orientation of giving, of service, of considering others, but now is the time to reconsider yourself, of how you love and care for yourself. And at the beginning of this transit, the sun will also be in the first house. So very powerful time for taking extra attention and care to yourself. Self-care practices, self-journaling, inquiry. In the yoga tradition, we call this svadhyaya, self-study, which may also include studying people that you admire and people that you look up to, either historically or personally, like reading biographies of people who inspire you, watching movies or documentaries of people who inspire you. All with this orientation towards, what do you really love about yourself? Who do you want to be? How do you want your life to be? Reconnecting to who you are before anyone else, almost to a selfish degree, which may feel a little uncomfortable for you here, but it can be incredibly empowering and will ultimately lead to you being able to give a lot more to the people in your life when you do reach this sort of finality of this particular cycle we're going through on November 29th, when Venus lands in your 4th house in Libra. And there you will find this stronger sense of home and family than ever before from doing that work, where now you feel a stronger sense of self and a stronger sense of generosity and giving to others, because your cup is full. You're not emptying your cup in self-sacrifice to the extent of draining yourself, but now you have more to give, and it's coming from this place of real heart-centered love and care. But until then, it's okay to be a little more selfish, prioritize self-care, not at the expense of anyone else, but also to not do things at the expense of yourself. So you're taking better care of yourself here. For Leo ascendant and moon, this transit is happening over your 1st house to your 12th house. Now, this means that Venus is in your 1st house, in the sense of self, kind of reconnecting to what you love about yourself, who you are, this big identity shift that you're going through. And I know a lot of Leos right now have gone through a huge identity shift. And there's a sense of like losing yourself. You know, Venus is going into the 12th house, the house of loss. And in this transit, you have this sense of like, who am I anymore? What really matters to me? What is my priority? And that is okay to be in that question and that mystery. You don't need to have the answers right now. It's okay to be in the mystery with this transit. And it would make sense that you're experiencing that. So Venus goes into the 12th house, where it actually does very well in the 12th house. And in Cancer, it's generally a good thing to experience, despite the fear a lot of people may have around loss in general. You are losing parts of you that actually don't serve anymore. You're losing parts of your ego, your attachments, your control, and really connecting to your heart at a deeper level. And the sense of, you may feel like you're not in your usual power and authority and leadership that you have very naturally, but it may feel like that is a little bit lost right now. And you're not sure if you're doing the right thing, if you're in the right place, if you should be here. So it is a powerful time to intentionally let things go. And this may include emotional release, like doing some sort of emotional release practice, deep breath work, deep somatic healing, body work, more powerful releasing practices. This may include also selling things that you no longer need, donating things, volunteering, giving your time, giving your money, giving your resources in this intentional act of letting go, rather than what could be an undesirable letting go or loss, where things feel like they're taken from you. You can work with this energy to go into more remote places, go into time in solitude and deep meditation. Deep tantric, sensual, spiritual, sexual practices can be really healing at this time. With Venus in the 12th house, it represents those things. So healing through sexual experiences can be really powerful when done intentionally here. Moving towards this time with Venus in the 3rd house, your communication, your sense of self will be renewed, restored after October 7th. You'll come out of this feeling stronger, more in touch with your desire, more true to yourself, and doing more of the things that you love in your life. For the Virgo ascendant and moon, Venus is transiting from your 12th to your 11th house. So Venus just got here recently into the 12th house and brought about this sense of healthy detachment, of needing to let go of things that no longer serve you and create space for what does feel really in alignment. But there can be a sense of loss of leadership and authority, of like a slight aimlessness, similar to what currently the Leo ascendants are about to go through. But for Virgo ascendants, you've already been in this sense of a little bit of like, who am I? Where am I going? What really matters to me? And what kind of relationships do I want to be in? What really lights me up? Where is my spiritual center? These kind of questions are creating a sense of unknown and uncertainty right now. When Venus goes back into the 11th house, it's a wonderful time to reconnect to communities and groups and causes that have helped you find your sense of center in the past, to give you perspective. And the sense of community and camaraderie and connection with others can help you restore your sense of place in the world, which helps you better see your ability to contribute to those places in the world through your Leo 12th house, where you have a sense of leadership around topics of spirituality, transformation, and deeper experiences like meditation. But with Venus going back to the 11th, also a time to reevaluate your finances, reassess how you're spending your money, what you really love to do with your money, similar to what the Geminis are going through right now, also ruled by Mercury. So there's this similar energy there, where it's a time to reevaluate your finances, reassess what you want to be spending on, what you love to spend your money on, what kind of groups you want to be a part of, what kind of causes you want to contribute to, and kind of put your money where your heart is in that sense with the 11th house, and what kind of community you want to help contribute to. And then you move forward to October 7th, where you kind of reconnect to the sense of leadership, of who you are, how you can contribute to the world. And then to all the way November 29th, when Venus is now in a much better placement in Libra, in its own sign in your 2nd house, where now your spending is more aligned with your values, your financial landscape is much more aligned with what you love to do, where your heart is, and your sense of family or chosen family is now more coming from this place of heart-centered connection, and you feel more in touch with that sense of family or chosen family. For Libra ascendants and moon, this transit is happening from your 11th to your 10th house, ending at your 1st house. So Venus is in the 11th right now, which just moved there recently, coming into your 11th house to reassess what you love in community and groups that you're a part of, what kind of causes and social groups you want to be a part of and contribute to. And you're getting this sense of like how you can really build wealth in your life in a new way. And this sense of like what kind of places and people you want to be around, what kind of person you want to be in those communities, and what you really love to do in a social setting, among like how you want to position yourself essentially, and if you have some sort of business in the marketplace or in social settings with like how you are showing up in the world, where you are naturally, you can be quite a big leader in social groups, and you're reconnecting to your love of that leadership in social settings. But now with Venus going back to your 10th house of career, Also a time for reevaluation of career. Are you doing what you love? How do you want to be earning income? And can you find a way where it's more aligned with what you love, where your heart really is? And that is a constantly evolving experience. And there's this constant sort of balancing act of what you really love to do, what will bring you income. And sometimes you may feel like you are having to give up what you love for the sake of making a living. But this is an opportunity with this transit to reconnect to the fact that you can do what you love for a living. In fact, the world needs you to do that. And through this whole process, by November 29th, you'll have this stronger sense of yourself at a higher octave of this is who you are, this is how you want to show up, and more aligned with your sort of standards of you don't need to sacrifice to make a living and do things that you don't really love or care about. And it may still be a longer process. It may not be that you are fully in this place by November 29th where you're just doing what you love, but you will have these lessons and realizations along the way between now and then that you can make a living doing what you love. And in fact, you have a strong connection to it, and you're getting these lessons to reconnect to that of, okay, you don't love this, you don't love that, why are you doing this, why are you still doing that? And you kind of reconnect to, oh, you actually love this, and this is where your heart is now, and this is what lights you up, and these are the kind of people you want to be around, and this is what you need to let go of when it's in Virgo. You'll need to let go of some things to get there, but you'll free up a lot of energy by November 29th to have that kind of life closer to what you really love. For Scorpio ascendant and moon sign, this transit's happening from your 10th house to your 9th house, ending at your 12th house. So this one is actually going to end in a significant sense of letting go for you, which is a unique case here, a little different than all the other transits or the other ascendants and moons, that through this whole process, you will come to a major transformative time of release in your life. And it can be beautiful and one of the most spiritually oriented growth times in your life. And it could really test you. So as a Scorpio ascendant, you love the intensity and the ups and downs. So there will be some of that here around the issue of what you love to do in your work. And a time to reevaluate, are you doing what you love? And if not, can you change it? Can you let it go? Can you orient your life more that you are doing what you love? And this may involve going somewhere, traveling somewhere of interest that brings you this deeper connection to what nourishes you, what really lights you up in the 9th house. Lessons that you've pursued in the past, teachers that you've resonated with, teachings that you align with. This could include texts, philosophical books, ideas, concepts, YouTube videos, or it may include actual living teachers that you've worked with that you want to reconnect with. And as a general rule in your life, there is this sense of love and affection that you can find for teachers in your life where they can be this guide to where your heart really is, what you really love, what's really important to you. And if you've lost touch with that, there may be this sense of needing to go on some level of like spiritual pilgrimage, not necessarily to the literal sense of that, but this spiritual pilgrimage to what is important to you. What do you really value in life? What concepts and ideas can really motivate you and inspire you? And which ones do you really love to follow? And as you get back in connection with that through the 9th house part of this transit, and you get to October 7th, you're back into your career with this renewed sense of purpose and perspective of why you're doing what you do. Why do you care about the career that you're in, or why are you in the one if you don't care about it? And how can you reconnect with what you really love to do? And new work opportunities will come through this. New perspectives of your work will come through this. And it's so important that you are doing what you love as you get to this 12th house part of it at the end, November 29th. This letting go of an old layer of identity, old attachments, so you can be fully in this new level of self. Reborn and renewed like a caterpillar to a butterfly. For Sagittarius ascendant and moon, this transit is happening from your 9th to your 8th house. And this 8th house, as you may know, is a Dushana house. It's considered a house that can bring about more challenges in general. But here we are as students of astrology. So you are open to that challenge and you will take it on just fine. You'll be doing just fine for this. But you're going back through old lessons that you've learned, philosophies, religion, beliefs, or values that you've held, to reassess them. And they might not be resonating in the way that they used to. And you might not feel that sense of like why or purpose or meaning that it used to hold for you. So you've got to go into the cave, this may be a dark night of the soul for you, briefly, for just a couple of months here, relatively briefly, that you go into this deeper transformation of like, who are you? What do you really want? What really matters? And take this from a sense of like, it's an adventure, it's an exploration, it's a discovery. And you get to reconnect to what it is that you really love to do and how you love to grow personally. Like growth-oriented experiences like yoga, astrology, journaling, time with loved ones and people you trust to tell you the truth and from the heart-centered place help you get guidance and perspective can all be really nourishing and supportive right now. And in relationship, if you are in relationship or seeking relationship, there will be a necessary transformation here, a big turning point in that relationship or that seeking of relationship where you come out of this a totally different person. You come out of this renewed with new perspective. If the relationship was one way, it will go through this deep transformation to be another way where you learn important lessons and you could potentially bond at a very deep level in relationship or in a new relationship. And it's a time that you could connect to things like a little bit darker, more mysterious, like astrology, occult studies, tarot. None of this is inherently bad or anything. I mean, darker in the sense like it's not as common in the public. And you go deeper into it, and it requires a level of sort of maturity, patience, and deeper exploration, kind of like going into a cave. But through that, you will come out completely transformed and renewed. And this can help lead to improvements in your work, your finances, your standing in society, your groups that you're part of, and how people see you, and accolades and recognition that you get through the work that you do. So really powerful time, but necessary deep inner work and growth here. For Capricorn, Ascendant, and Moon, this is a deeply, deeply transformative time of your life. You have this Venus over the 8th house, and you've just gone through the whole Saturn over your 1st house through 2020 up to beginning of 2023. So it's been a hugely transformative time. And depending on what else is going on in your chart, this may be one of those last really big, deeply transformative times where things stabilize a little bit more going forward. And Venus here in the 8th house, like, what do you really love in your personal growth work? Maybe there's a set of divination cards that really help guide you and give you perspective. But you may be in some ways like losing that of like, well, I really do love these things, but it just doesn't feel the same anymore. Kind of that feeling of like when a crystal starts to be dull, you've got to recharge it in the moon. And you need to recharge yourself. It could be literally outside in the moon. It could be through partnerships, friendships, relationships that really nourish you and understand you and you can trust to hold your heart well and talk to you and tell you the truth and give you perspective. And you're really learning like, what do you really want in relationship? You thought it was this, but maybe there's this deeper layer of like, oh, it's actually this. And it might not be clear until you're fully out of this November 29th. But you're in that transformative process. There is a lot of transformation and growth available here. One of the most transformative cycles of the whole year for you. So with this, it's important to have some sort of intentional path through that into the darkness, like a guide, a teacher, a mentor, a path you're following. Maybe it's just following these podcasts and the weekly horoscopes. that alone, it could be really powerful. But something where you feel like there's a sense of light at the end of this dark tunnel that you're going through right now, and there is a sense of meaning and purpose on the other side, and you will come through this with a stronger sense of conviction about what you value, about what your values are, what your beliefs are, what your priorities are. And through that, it will actually lead to a lot of growth in your career and a lot of growth in your pursuits of what you love to do. And there may be some necessary identity, ego deaths in this time, layers of grieving, of loss, of letting go, but not necessarily bad, right? Those things sometimes get that reputation of seeming like bad and scary, but they are like a snake shedding its skin. It's like the butterfly becoming the goo before it becomes the butterfly, right? You're going through that necessary transformation right now, and it will lead to you flourishing after November 29th. For Aquarius, Ascendant, and Moon, this transit is happening over your 7th to 4th house, ending in your 9th house. So you are reassessing what you want in relationship here. It's a good time to slow down. If you've been going into a relationship and things have been escalating and intensifying with Saturn in your 1st house and aspecting your 7th, there may be some difficulties that have come up in relationship and challenges that require you to slow down. Wonderful time to do that. And it may need to take a little more space in the relationship than usual, and not need things to be figured out and rushed into and full speed ahead right now. So slow down. Come back to what really lights you up in your daily routine. What kind of practices do you want to be doing daily? With Venus getting into your 6th house of daily activities, you reconnect to what you love to do. And this may include artistic pursuits. This may include gardening or hobbies or things that are just for the love and joy of it. Watching funny shows, watching romantic comedies, watching things that are doing things that are just for joy and entertainment and fun in your daily life, and allowing yourself to kind of be in that more emotional space day by day in your own sort of emotional expression, and not necessarily bring that into the relationship, not necessarily need a relationship to be the cause or the solution to this emotional expression, but allowing yourself to have that space to be an emotional being and connect to your desire in that space. And not overthink it, not get too cerebral or analytical about it. So Aquarius can be quite progressive and eccentric and unique in your approach to things. And part of that is through listening to what your internal emotional guidance system is moving you towards. So this is the time to do that. And then by October 7th, you can come back to the relationship better aligned, better attuned to who you are and what you value, and better then attuned to the other person and contributing more to the relationship as equals, as partners, and still going slow because Saturn will be retrograde throughout this thing. So you still want to slow down, and it is aspecting this, and not rush ahead with anything important right now. And then when you end this on November 29th with Venus in your 9th house, you'll have this stronger connection of like what you really love to do in terms of what is guiding you philosophically and morally and ethically. And it'd be a wonderful time to travel. If you can travel with your partner, on your own, any sort of travel after November 29th is very favorable. For Pisces, Ascendant, and Moon, this transit is going from your 6th house to your 4th house, ending at your 8th house. So this will be a major time of transformation, especially after November 29th at the end of this. So what you're going through right now is you may have this sense of slight malaise or disinterest or dispassion about your life in general and what you're doing and like how you're spending your time. That's okay. Like these phases come and go for everyone. Everyone has their turn with all the challenging transits at some point. And you may have this sense of like, what do you really care about? What really matters to you? So with Venus going out of your 5th or 6th back into your 5th house, it's a time to reconnect to what you love to do. Like, how do you like to express yourself creatively? Is there a creative project that you dropped and you want to pick back up? If you have kids or want kids, reconnecting to that desire and passion around having or wanting children. And if you are around kids, being around them can help you really connect to your sense of play and sort of creative expression for the sake of creative expression, and fun and joy, and just this sort of innocent playfulness again that you may be lacking a little bit coming into this transit. And it will feel wonderful. You'll feel back in touch with your imagination and creativity and ideas. And then you come back to this Venus in 6th house with a new, renewed sense of like doing what you love to do in your daily life, which may involve more time for hobbies, entertainment, artistic expression, playfulness, just being in the flow and spontaneous energy of the day. And then Venus will get into the 7th house for a while, November 3rd to 29th. Not a good time for addressing any important things in relationship. You may find yourself being a little more critical of yourself and others. And then when Venus gets into the 8th house, November 29th, then now you're in this time of like pursuing what you love to do for personal growth. So letting your imagination take you into all sorts of new experiences, new ideas. And if you love astrology, wonderful time to go deeper into astrology and related fields and yoga and things to do with alignment of your energetic work. And in all sorts of like energetic healing, energy work can be really powerful at this time. And you will go through a deep transformation after November 29th. Which, this whole transit, it's important to stay connected to your inner child, what you love to do, what lights you up, your sense of playfulness, creative expression, and exploration. And this can be a wonderful transformative time. Be careful not to get too serious about relationships, too heady about it. But otherwise, this can be a wonderful time where you reignite your passion in your daily life. And that is our look at all of the signs. So again, if you missed anything, get your free horoscope, your free birth chart at quiet-astrology.com. Go back to the ascendant and moon for your chart, where the AS and the MO are in your chart. The number that they're at is the sign that they're in. And if you want the free weekly horoscopes delivered to your inbox, where I give you the write-ups on these things I share here in the podcast, also available at quiet-astrology.com. And of course, I didn't even touch on like what Rahu and Ketu have to do with this, and Jupiter, because there's so many layers to horoscope that I can only do so much for the general public here. And hopefully this gave you some perspective. This is a lot about the lessons of Venus right now. But if you want all the details of everything in your chart, that's what you get in a reading. And I offer the life alignment reading at quiet-astrology.com, where we look at everything holistically in your chart. Those of you who are a little more well-versed at astrology, you can do some of this yourself, knowing what you know about the planets and signs and adding these layers upon layers of interpretation. And I will be offering the Vedic Astrology Mentorship Program again later in the near future. So if you're not on the wait list for that, that's where you'll find out about it as soon as the opportunity to join next arises. At quiet-astrology.com, click on Mentorship and you can hear all about that coming up. And if you have any other questions, you can leave a little comment on the Spotify as well, where I have the space for you to ask questions. Or you can send me a question at quiet-astrology.com. There's a link to send in on the contact form. Any questions you have, any things you'd like to learn about Vedic astrology, I'd love to share here on the podcast. And I want to go into talking briefly about 3 other transits happening this week as I'm recording this on July 24th. Real briefly, on Monday, July 24th, Mercury goes into Leo for 10 days. So this is a passionate and creative energy that emphasizes the importance of self-expression, courage, and leadership in your communication. Mercury, the planet of communication, and Leo, the sign of leadership. And we can actually see that here on this chart. It happens to be on here as I'm showing this. But Mercury will be with Venus and Mars. So this can bring a lot of passion into what you talk about. And I feel it talking about this right now. Whatever you're passionate about, bring that into your communication, into your sharing in the world. Mercury is in Maga there as well, which is associated with the power of ancestors and the ability to connect with your past and do some deep analysis and growth through understanding your past. So wonderful time for journaling over the next 10 days, July 24th until August 3rd, if I did the math right there, or 2nd. So a great time for doing deep internal processing and journaling, but also talking things out. Then on Tuesday, July 25th, Neptune moves into the Purva Bhadrapada nakshatra, bringing an emphasis on spirituality and creativity and purification, breaking down old patterns. As if there wasn't enough of that with Venus being in Gandanta, going through this karmic knot that's being untied right now for all of us, and for all the retrogrades, Neptune, Pluto, and Saturn retrograde, revisiting, reevaluating our structures and old patterns and old neural pathways so that we can break through the illusions. We can lift the veil of illusion, of Maya, that has been clouding our judgment. And we can see more clearly at the end of this 32-week cycle of Neptune. So that is our look at the transits for this week and a little bit ongoing through November. And I look forward to sharing more with you next time on the Quiet Mind Astrology podcast. Thank you for listening. And if you enjoyed it, please take a moment to leave a review on Apple Podcasts. Much appreciated. And I'll talk to you soon. Have a great week.